Joining me now is Jonathan Turley, George Washington University law professor, Fox News contributor. Professor, moments ago, President Trump signed another executive order, this one ending what they call illegal DEI. The White House says this will terminate radical DEI preferencing in federal contracting and direct federal agencies to combat private sector discrimination. Professor, how soon will we start seeing legal challenges to this?
Well, we saw a flurry of legal challenges immediately after Trump took office. But it's going to take more than a legal flash mob to reverse some of these measures. To some degree, Trump has been advantaged with the fact that we've had divided government in Congress, which meant that many of the things that President Biden did, he did with executive orders. And what you can do by an executive order, you can usually undo by executive order. But this is really a flurry of executive orders that we're all trying to keep up with. I did glance at that recently minted EO, and it's very interesting. One of the things that he asks the Department of Education and the Justice Department to look at is to fully enforce the Harvard decision by the Supreme Court. That was the decision that ended affirmative action in the admissions process. There have been complaints that universities had already prepared for the next round to circumvent the impact of that decision. Trump is ordering the departments to get on that, to use their powers, including their investigatory powers, determine if there's circumvention occurring. And that is the view of some after the Supreme Court handed down its historic ruling.
And Jonathan, he also wants his new attorney general, assuming Pam Bondi, I'm sure she'll get confirmed, to review all activities of all departments in the federal government over the last 4 years and identify any instances where the department or agency's conduct appears to have been contrary to the purposes and policies of the order. And this is about the weaponization of government, asking for appropriate remedial actions to be taken. Now, this is a big order, and some would say it might be a tiny bit general, but nevertheless, it makes a statement about what the Trump family and his associates have endured over the past, really, 9 years.
Yeah, once again, this is within the navigational beacons for executive orders. They don't have binding legal authority, but they are basically directions to federal agencies. And this is a president who really is building on his first term. If you recall, when he first came into office, he came face to face with an acting attorney general who ordered the entire department to stand down and not assist him in his immigration policy reforms. I considered that order, by the way, to be grossly inappropriate. And she ultimately, as she had planned, left office. But Trump had spent his first term dealing with a lot of this resistance from within the agencies. That's why he's moving very quickly on not just weaponization, but also to remind all of the employees that it is their duty to carry out constitutional and lawful orders of the president, regardless of whether they disagree with his policies.
And rescheduling federal employees, for the viewing audience, that's an entirely new way of eliminating federal workers by, quote, rescheduling them, which is another way of approaching government cuts. And a lot of these agencies, the president believes, are bloated and just loaded with people they don't need. They didn't come to work for the last 4 years, and no one really noticed.
Right, and that has already been challenged, and the thrust of that challenge is that other federal laws guarantee due process, and that by designating them, you are cutting back on legislative changes. A lot of these efforts are meant to slow things down, including the challenge to DOGE. The challenge there is to say, what is DOGE? And what the challengers insisted, that's an advisory committee. And advisory committees have to be open and balanced. But they're a bit premature. They pulled that trigger, in my view, too quickly. DOGE is very much a work in progress. But the other problem that they're going to have is they can throw sand in those works, but Congress has a parallel DOGE effort going on. They're not going to be delayed by litigation. So I'm not too sure how successful these initial attacks are going to be.
Well, Jonathan, this will be a pace that we haven't seen, and I don't think we didn't see it first term, but they know the territory now, they know the challenges. And do you agree with my assessment that each of these orders was reviewed by their legal team and they understood that these lawsuits were going to be challenged? And I don't think a single one of them was issued without that in mind.
No, these are obviously well-prepared EOs, and some of them, by the way, may be intending to start a fight. The EO on birthright citizenship, maybe an effort to get this into the court. You know, there is that sweet spot for a two-term president. In the first 2 years, you really have to put a score on the board before halftime, because those last 2 years, the pace slows down considerably. And so they may want this in court so that they can get that resolved, and if necessary, start a constitutional amendment process.
Jonathan, always great to see you. Thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.